kind of take our tech hats off for a little bit, and let's talk about the theme of 2024. What you see behind me is the Double Your MRR live training. Now, I know that that's kind of a crazy thing, and I want to talk about what this means. What's actually the craziest part about it is you come into this community, and people are like, there's no way I can do this. There was a guy that I talked to. I had these offers I did for, are you struggling, let's book a free call. And I had 8 free calls, and I booked it. And he's like, I'm at $48 a seat. I live here. There's no way I can do this. There's no way I can grow. There's no way I can double. Outside of this room, I want you guys to realize how big of a deal this is. Outside of this room and the people that we work with all the time, how much do MSPs really grow? I want you to think about that. And if you don't spend time outside of your own world, and it's kind of tough because in MSP land, we're very local, we're very regional, so it's hard to see other people. But I'm gonna tell you, most MSPs don't double. Would 5 years be crazy for them to double? I mean, it's one thing when you're like 5K, okay, I get it. But if you get to 50K of regular just revenue, not even MRR, how many MSPs really double in a year, in 2 years? I bet you it's less than 10%. In this room, it's the norm because we push it. So we're going to talk what that means today. We're going to talk about not just that financial growth, doubling your MRR, but I want you to think about specifically, but there's 2 major components as an MSP business owner that I want you to be very aware of. So you think about the traditional business owner, their service delivery, unless they're building a startup, I understand, but typically their service delivery and their product is pretty standard. I'll give you an example of this. My wife just started a med spa about 7 months ago. The med spa stuff has been the same shit they've been doing for the last 5, 10, 50. Yes, they got new products occasionally, but it's Botox and fillers, and it's the same stuff, and it doesn't change a whole lot. You occasionally get some evolution with a new product or something, but it's not like this game-changing, life-changing deal. In MSP land, think about the world that we're looking at now. So you have to personally evolve. If you're going to double your MRR, we have to personally evolve. That's key. You have to physically evolve how you work, because can we handle the stress? What's it take in your business to handle doubling your endpoints? Or maybe doubling the MRR associated with your endpoints, doubling your staff. Think about how big of an undertaking it is to double your staff. Managing them, learning how to do all that stuff. So we have to not only be personally ready to grow, we have to physically be ready to handle that load. A lot of us are not in the best shape. I've been on this weight loss journey now for about a year, over a year. I'm down 30-some pounds, been working on my body, working on my fitness, doing all this different stuff, but it's hard because you have to keep up with that. But then we have to add the mental stress to that as well. But then you add in the whole side of the MSP land where we have to also think about, I have to change up my entire service delivery model. If you stand here in February of 2024, think about the service delivery model that we should be delivering versus 2 years ago. Is it completely different? I'm seeing all these heads nodding yes. It is 100%, and everybody that's watching online, we have a lot of our 0 to 10K members watching today. We have some people that are guests here watching today. Please understand, everything we've done in the MSP industry is technically flipped on its head in the last 12 to 24 months because of insurability, compliancy, and legal pieces that are going to be affecting us. And I understand, like I get into battles with these guys every single damn day. I had a guy from Southern Alabama, I think his name was Dale, literally said, I'd go out of business in 3 weeks if I charged $100 per seat. If you're selling at $30 a seat, it's very apparent you're not even delivering remotely close to what you should be delivering in 2024. This guy's gonna argue all day long because he's right, he's been in business for 24 years, don't tell me what to do. That is the battle we're facing. Just so I know you're going to go up against, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but I know you're going to go up against the low price leaders, the cheap guys that deliver this. But the model that we teach in 7-figure MSP and the concept behind that is you should be delivering a single stack. And it should be the best stack. The reason that we recommend charging, and note, for everybody that's a guest, we recommend charging $300 per seat, full stack. Here's how I kind of determine that. Think about good, better, best. What do we always have, like our silver, gold, platinum, or our precious metals plans? Then think about the best scenario. If you had unlimited budget, what would you deliver? We'd all deliver the best. Why have we allowed it to go down? Because we're fighting price point. Well, you know what? All these 3 things I have on the screen are fixing that problem, but you have to be ready. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we go. Because bottom line is this is the largest challenge that MSP owners have ever seen. Not only do you have to grow yourself personally, physically, mentally, all these things to grow your business, we have to deal with the entire industry flipping on its head in the last 12 to 24 months. And you know what that takes? It takes a massive amount of discipline. It's hard. Like, this is really hard stuff. So I'm going to give you some tips, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. But how do we actually massively grow our business? But also, and here's your biggest key that I want you to really have in your head, how do we keep our brains right? How do we stay positive? Because the biggest challenge with that battling the low price leader, the guys like Dale, they can still go in and undercut you. And if you don't do the right stuff, if you're not disciplined during your sales process, if you're not super tight on every single thing, Cindy Phillips, I know you're watching, we actively say all the time, do not skip steps. But I'm going to tell you, 99 out of 100 times when we're dealing with a problem in open office hours, we have some of our coaches in residence here, we have Ryan O'Hara here, we got Cindy here. When we're dealing with problems on open office hours, where's Logan? I know Logan's here somewhere. Yep. Logan, how many times do we deal with this, right? I'm running into this problem, this problem, this problem, and it always comes back to, did you do this? Well, the client didn't want that, so I kind of move that to the side. You don't skip steps. It takes discipline. You have to have a process and you have to follow it. Now in 7-Figure MSP, our program is an accelerant, but we're going to give you so much content over the next 2 days that you can actively do this on your own. My question for you is, are you disciplined enough to make this work on your own? Because what I'm going to tell you, and I think we've been kind of watching this, Cindy and I are celebrating our 4th year together. We've been kind of visionaries on what the process is here. Ken, you were here 3 years ago, or 4 years ago at this event. We were still talking the same stuff then. 4 years later, we're still facing the uphill battle of, you can't charge this, you can't make this happen. So you have to be disciplined enough in your sales process, in everything that you do, to hold yourself accountable, to fix that. So I'm going to give you some stuff that we're going to talk about today. So how do we get to a spot where not only do we grow the business, but we don't get stuck in the mess? These are some of the things that we got to work on. Because the mess is what's key. How many of us fall back into MSP stuff? Working on tickets, answering calls on our cell phone from decision makers, from clients. These are all real things that happen. You have to personally evolve. We have to change how we're working. I'm going to give you some of my tips and some of the things that we're going to work on today. But I want you to think about the MSP market as a whole. How often are we actively changing tools? How often are we changing our market that we work in? How often are we changing verticals? How often are we changing all these different things? So I want you to think about every client prospect that you've talked to in the last, let's just say, 6 months. Can you sit there and say to yourself, I did the exact same sales process across every single prospect I worked with for the last 6 months? Or did I let the client dictate me? Did I let it go down this path where I'm like this? Did I let the client control the process? Did I let the client control the stack? Because they didn't want to handle things, or they didn't want to manage, or they're used to doing things. So we have to stay disciplined. So you have to say to yourself, every prospect you work with, every single person that you talk to, you have to be disciplined and you have to follow your stack and you have to follow your process. It's really key. So let's tackle the MSP side really quick. I think this is a really important thing, and this is really key here. So in order for you to be able to double your MRR, you need an absolute true sales process from top to bottom that focuses on the actual things your clients need. Now let's do some raises of hands here. What things do your clients, you guys can shout this out, I'm going to repeat it for the mic. What kind of things do your clients need from our standpoint as cybersecurity professionals? What do our clients, what should they have right now? So we got training, we got MFA, what else do they need? Peace of mind. Now keep in mind, this is stuff that we're telling them they physically need. SASE, okay? XDR, fully managed SOC, what did we say? Right? They need the best. They need the best plan that they should have. You have to make sure you're differentiating yourself across the board, and you have to pivot away from what they've always known. Now, the sales process that we give you guys in Elite is very specific with this. But every single time, especially new members, especially as members that are in the program 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, we see deviation from this because people get complacent. People get lazy. They want to delegate down to their team. Now, I have zero problems delegating down to your team, but you better put systems in place, and I'm going to give you a good example of this. So I wrote this is seven-figure MSP sales internally, okay? I wrote our sales process internally. I hired Vianney. So Vianney, we wrote the sales process, right? And we have spent the last year perfecting the sales process together. Now, that doesn't even matter because now Vianney's managing a team. How many we got on the team, Vianney? 8? 8. We got 8 on the team. That's setters, appointment setters, cold callers, emailers, LinkedIners, Facebookers, all this different stuffers together. And Vianney manages them. How many meetings do you do per week with your team? 30 meetings a week per his team. Every single day, there's a start of day meeting with the whole team that Vianney runs. Every single day, he's managing the process, top to bottom. On top of that, sitting next to Vianney, Michelle, if you could stand up, please. I hired a new chief revenue officer. This is Michelle Terpstra. Michelle is a fractional sales officer that we've now brought in-house to run our entire sales team. So Michelle and I are running strategy together. Michelle, how often do we talk? Would you say 50 times a day? I'm a big fan. So my point with this being, I didn't just hire some staff and dump my stuff on them and say, it's been fun, book me some calls. It's constant management. Constant, and I'll tell you what, there's no way in hell I can sit there and do a start of day meeting with 8 people every day. I'll go insane. I can't do that. That's not me. But you know what I do? I hire people to do it for me that I trust. Vianney is phenomenal at it. I think you actually enjoy it. That's weird, but he enjoys it. He gets on with everybody. Our whole team is around the world. Our setting team, I think we're 6 countries on the setting team? So he runs it from Valencia, Spain, from anywhere, meeting every day. So I hire people to do that stuff. So my point with this is we have to differentiate from what we're comfortable with, but that doesn't mean that it goes down and we just dump it off on people. And one of the biggest things that I see, especially Jose, I know you, JJ, I don't know if JJ's in the room, but Jose's our closer. He's here somewhere. I can't see very well. Oh, there he is. So JJ, stand up for me. JJ's a great example. JJ, how many MSPs do we talk to? They're like, oh, I hired a BDR, I hired a rep, and they're gonna go through the program for me. Almost every call, because every MSP is like, okay, I'm gonna hire a guy or a gal, they're gonna go prospect for me, and they're gonna book me a bunch of meetings. That's not how this shit works. You have to have constant attention and constant management. So we have to grow, and we have to use this as an opportunity to evolve. So when I talk about that evolution piece, it's so absolutely key that you personally evolve with this and you start to think to yourself, yes, I want to delegate this piece, but how am I going to manage it? So when we come back to the process, it's all about structure. It's all about discipline. You don't have to be the one that does it. Now I'll go back. Michelle, one of our barometers for closing is I say, well, I closed deals for a year myself. Vianney, I showed you guys, I should have put that on the screen, but I showed you guys my original messaging script a couple weeks ago that I used back in May of 2019 to really elevate this program. And I closed deals on my own, and one of our barometers is, well, I can close deals at about 45%. But I'm the guy, and everybody kind of knows me, and they're excited to be on the phone with Chris, and they're excited to be on the phone with the owner, et cetera. So we have to understand that I have to be able to pick that up and move it over and delegate to somebody, knowing I'm going to have a little bit of loss, but then I'm going to compensate for that loss by having structure, process, and management. So those are things that you have to think about and how you have to grow. Because you have to not only pivot yourself away from that, but you have to change how you deliver. So now let's talk about what traditional MSPs want. If you talk to any traditional MSP, what do they think? So the things that we're talking about in this room, you heard the mentions, MFA, security, SOC, SASE, training. What do traditional break-fix, trunk slammer MSPs, what do they think their clients want? Tech support. Norton's pretty good. Lowest price possible from Carl. I got my new Dell that came with McAfee on it. So if you think about that, this is how you differentiate yourself, guys. You have to go in talking about the things that matter to you, doing the right things. It's really key that you lead the client, not where they want to go. And if we go down to the next point here, if we talk to any prospect, I don't care who they are, that a small to medium-sized MSP is going to work with, what do they think they need right now? First of all, they don't know. The same thing they've always had. and this is a really important point I want you to really take home and I want you to really understand. If you let the client dictate the path of what you're selling, keeping in mind we have to completely flip our offering now compared to what it was to differentiate ourselves, to be different, to offer the, can we do what we did 24 months ago and deliver the right service in 2024? Not even close. But what does the client think? They think, just give me what I always had. This hasn't changed. So your job, you have to evolve your sales process. You have to evolve you, and you have to show them the why. Why do they need cybersecurity protections? Let's break that down. Why? Compliance. You said he can't turn on the news in the morning without hearing about 3 different issues. Survival, money. So here's the thing I want you to understand. I know that every single client walking in the door doesn't feel any different. Just give me the same shit I've always had. I get it. I understand that. You have to be the one that says, times have changed. We have to do things differently. Here's why. And I want you to think about picking up, let's say you put in a brand new server 5 years ago. You bill them 40 hours, you put in a server project, and the server fails 4 days later. What does the client expect? They expect you to just fix it, right? That's what happened back in the day. Yes, maybe you had some hourly agreement with them, but their brain was fix it. Their brain is exactly the same around cybersecurity because we've been using terms in this industry like anti-hacking, anti-spam, spam prevention. The amount of MSPs that have the word prevention on their website and in their collateral is insane because how much stuff can we prevent now? Not much, right? I mean, I understand we can prevent some things, maybe, but can you prevent them all? No. We got guys laughing. Can't prevent them all. So we have to be the ones that are so disciplined in our sales process that we steer them away from, I'm not going to be the guy that puts a server in or puts any cybersecurity stuff in, old school server mindset. I'm not going to be the guy that puts all this stuff in and then just fixes it for free. Because, and I want you to use this comparison. We all know what a hurricane is. Let's say we live in South Florida and there's a hurricane coming. House gets destroyed. We did all the right stuff. House gets destroyed. Does the builder have to pay for the rebuild on their own? Who pays for the rebuild? Insurance. But you have to be what first? Insurable. So come all the way back around now, and this is where your brain stuff has to work. Come all the way back around now to our job in 2024 isn't to make sure our clients are secure. That's great. It's awesome. Huge benefit. Huge add-on. But what's our job now? It's to make sure they're insurable and that you can recover them without a massive amount of undertaking. We had Chris Krebs on our stage back in Charlotte a couple of years ago, and he said, literally sitting here on the stage with me in his fireside chat, everybody's getting hacked. We have to be in a place where we can control, recover, limit the blast radius, and get insurance to pay the bill. So for everybody that's here, I want you to think about how big of a deal that is. Your job now, yes, the tech stuff matters. I'm never going to diminish how important the tech stuff is, but your job now is to make sure that your client is insurable and that they can actually recover. And I want you to think to yourself as you're sitting here, can I do that right now with every client I have? And if the answer is no, got to get to work. That's really important. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. So first thing here with all of this is you have to absolutely diagnose and then prescribe. Every single deal starts with a CSRA. For you, those of you that are watching online, for those of you that are guests, this means cybersecurity risk assessment. I know there's going to be prospects that walk in the door. Had a great post last night in our Inner Circle Clients Facebook group. I forget who posted this, but he said, hey, I got an opportunity to work with a 50-seat plus client. They already got 2 bids. I got to go in there and give them a price right now. How you cannot, and so he's like, oh my God, I got this amazing deal. What's going to happen? I'll lose it if I don't say yes. If I don't give him a price right now, and how do you determine, how does that prospect determine if you're a good fit based on that whole criteria? It's one thing. I got 2 other bids and I'm the third. Boom. It's all about price then. So you have to look at every single situation. And when we talk about this, when we talk about our sales process, when we talk about everything inside a 7-figure MSP, we call it running the play. And you have to run the play every single day in your business, and it has to be your staple. It has to be your discipline piece, and it's mission critical that this works. So every single deal gets a CSRA, period, and you have to sell cyber first. And if you're not selling cyber first of all, I don't care what you're delivering. Like, that does not really matter that much. You have to sit there and talk with the prospect about how are you going to recover when you get hit? How are you going to get insurance to pay the bill? These are not things that typical MSPs, when we go back to the typical MSP, these are not things that the typical MSP talks about. So you use this as a differentiation point and you ask them the hard-ass questions. How are you going to recover when you get breached? I'm not going to get breached. Okay, fine. Walk away sometimes. It's okay to say no to a prospect. Never burn a bridge, be smart about it, but never walk away. And I understand that this whole thing is very, very difficult. I understand it's hard to walk in because we're fighting years of this industry. Remember, I said the last 12 to 24 months, this industry is flipped on its head. Now, a huge opportunity is that it's the best time ever to make money here, which is a big deal, right? But this entire industry flips on its head. So you have to fight years of training. I've had my company in Southern Alabama for 24 years. Don't tell me what to do. Okay, times have changed, bro. That's got to be your staple in your head. And I understand also, it's hard to reframe. It's hard to change that client mindset, just like Niall said. Why would I do anything different? Think about this. In their entire history as a business, have they ever been told they need to spend money mandatorily? Compliance, legal, insurance. Have they ever been told they have to spend money or they're going to die? They've never been told that. So it's really difficult when clients and prospects and all these people do not value security. They do not value at all recoverability. They do not value at all insurability because they don't understand it. Because understand, the insurance companies, we talk about this all the time at our roadshow, day one out of the box, insurance company sales reps walk into prospects and say, how much money do you have in your bank account? And the prospect says, well, I got this much. If we walked in as MSPs and said, literally the first question, you're like, how much money you got in your bank account? What are they going to say? They'll laugh you out of the room. Why are you, this has nothing to do with technology. I don't want to talk about this. Tell me how to manage my servers. Tell me how to do my backups. They don't care about that stuff. So you have to show them why. That's the whole point of the sales process. That's the whole point of what we're doing. Because I'm going to tell you, and again, I understand this stuff is hard. It's hard to reframe them. It's hard to reframe you. It's hard to deal with clients that get hacked and try and blame you. But it's also hard to scale your MSP because you don't charge enough. The average price, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this afternoon still, but the average price that comes into Jose's interview room is about $68 per seat is what the average MSP is charging. So you have to understand all of these things are difficult. And I get it, but it really comes down to choosing your heart. What do you want? Yes, it's hard to do this. It was hard for me over the last year to lose 35 pounds. It's hard to go in the gym every damn morning. But you know what was also hard? It's hard being a chubby guy at 45. So you have to pick what you want. What do you want to make better? And it all comes down to discipline, that personal discipline stuff. And selling MSP the right way is absolutely mission critical. So you have to, yes, flip your stack, but then we also have to evolve us. And that's really key. But can you guys, as the owner, and this is what I want you to really think about, and this is where we're going to get into the personal development side for my last 15 minutes here. Can you guys personally handle it? And this is, I'm going to give you some tips of things that I do over the next few minutes here to help myself grow. And I do a massive amount of personal development now. I don't do anything else. Ask my team. I don't do anything else. So I want you guys to take a step back mentally with me. One of the hardest things that I struggle with, that I have to do, is I have to evolve as a person. I have to evolve as a leader. I have to evolve as a business owner. These are really, really important things. So things that I personally struggle with. I'm going to tell you this. This is some personal struggle points. I'm a massive procrastinator. Lindsay, you and I talk about this all the time. Me procrastinating has been a battle in my life, dealing with this. And one of the things that I do, I actively, when I'm with people, and where this came up is Lindsay and I were like working on some stuff together. And I was like, stop, I got to do this. Stop, I got to do this. And she's like, why are you doing that? I'm like, well, this is how I battle my internal procrastination is instead of making a list or whatever, I stop myself. And things I feel important, I stop myself and I do it right now. So sometimes, so for me, it's really difficult because I kind of always have to be on because I'll just push it off. I'll worry about it later. I'll deal with it later. So, anybody ever message me? How long does it take me to respond? It's almost instant. And it's by design. And some people are like, oh, you're always on, blah, blah, blah. It sucks for business. If I don't that's my personal fight to how I fix my internal procrastination battle. So that's why I respond almost immediately, because I do that stuff. And I've made a physical change, a mental change over the last 10 years to say, okay, I suck at this. I'm either going to delegate it or I'm going to improve it. Well, I can't delegate response time. I can't delegate, that's something I can actively, personally control. Second thing, I really personally struggle with over-delegation. Some people call it lazy. I'm not actually lazy, but I want to enable my team to fail. So think about how many control freaks do we have in the room? I'm the polar opposite of that, okay? So I want you to think about that. So this is something that I battle with personally as well. I struggle with almost like giving too much to my team at times, but I kind of reined it back in by offering help and all these other things, so I struggle with that. I also really, really struggle with lack of focus. I've grown up with ADD my whole life. If anybody talks to me for 5 minutes, you're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, sorry, it's just who I am. Got to deal with the tics and shit. It is what it is. But it's stuff that I personally struggle with, so I'm actively working on this stuff all the time. So a lot of people see me and they're like, okay, you've built multiple successful companies. Obviously, it's easy for you. This is stuff that this is a big battle, especially for me. The procrastination battle has been my biggest one because I can deal with the lack of focus. Come down to game time, it's not really a problem. Dealing with the procrastination has been a real battle. So I've had to really personally work on those things. So I want you to think about this. We all have some stuff to write on. What are 3 things that you struggle with that you think you could go back and personally work on? And I want you to take like a minute, and let's write that down for a second. What are 3 things, and you don't have to do this, but a great example to me is how dedicated are you to working on yourself and how dedicated are you to working on here? Can you take a minute and write down 3 things that you personally struggle with? So coming out of that, here's some things that I personally excel at. Now, one of the things that I do, I always like to start with my 3 things that I struggle with because I can always improve. None of us are perfect. We all have stuff that we can work on. But here's some things that I personally really are great at. I'm very proud of myself for some of this stuff, and I'm really, really excited. So I'm very good at taking risk. I would not be standing on this stage. I would not be doing any of the stuff that we do right now if I wasn't a massive risk taker. Most people really struggle with that. I don't take risks. I'm very comfortable. I have no problem, and I live in a world of abundance, just so you know. So even if I have 0 money, I'm spending money because I believe I can make it. I can always make more money. That's how I look. So I'm always willing to spend. I'm always willing to do stuff. I'm always willing to try things because I live in a mindset of abundance. So that is a big deal. And I will tell you, if you think about how important that is, there's a couple people that talked, I think a couple quarters ago, about they are terrified of spending any money in their business. Think about the flip opposite of I live in a world of abundance. I live in this world of, what would that be? Scarcity, yes. I said earlier, I should have known that. But I live in this world of scarcity. Think about every decision you make is limited by questions. So that's a really big strength that I have that I really work on that I've never had to deal with. I'm also extremely good at executing. This has always been something that's a major, major positive for me. And I'm just letting you guys know this stuff because I have things that I struggle with, but I also have things that I'm really good at. Now, the things that I struggle with, I actively work on. I don't just brush them to the side. I actively work on fighting my procrastination. I actively work on fighting my lack of focus, fighting some of these things that I struggle with. I'm also extremely good at ideas and vision. You think about the 7-figure MSP Elite program. Cindy Phillips and I sat down in a coffee shop in December of 20, and we built this thing. We built what we're doing. And it's all because 2 people sat down and had a massive willingness to take a risk. And it's really key. So I focus on, 100% of the time, the things I'm especially good at. And I really, really use that as a launch pad. So think about yourself. Think about the things you wrote down that you need to struggle with. Now, absolutely, we want to work on the things that we struggle with. But absolutely, you want to use the things that you're good at as a launch point. And I actively hire people to help me work on the things that I suck at. Vianney and Michelle, I struggle with sales management. I struggle. There's no way in hell. Like, Jose, I'm going to be really 100% honest with you. If those 2 weren't here, we wouldn't talk. It's just how it is. And you know what? You'd be left out on your own to struggle. That's how it works. That's how this stuff happens. Because that's not me as a person. So I have to say, I'm going to not eliminate that, but I'm going to delegate with abandon. So I'm going to trust my team. I'm going to hire really good people. I'm also not afraid to pay them pretty well, but I really delegate on the stuff that I'm very bad at. And this is really important to do. So yes, I still work on those things personally, but I dump some of that stuff off and make sure that I got the right pieces in place to make sure Jose and his team have the attention. Think about the 3 things you wrote down. How can we work on that? But then think about the 3 things that you're really great at. And how do we use that to launchpad our businesses? And I want you to think about what you're going to do to actively evolve yourself. Not only your MSP business, because and I know that's why we're here, and I know that's why we're here to focus on security and technology and the vendors and all this stuff. But if you don't evolve personally, if you don't grow, not much will happen. So here's a couple things that I do, just to finish up here. There's a couple things that I do as a business owner to evolve. Number 1, I know my vision. I'm working on this all the time. I run my entire life on vision boards. You guys have seen this, heard this from me sometimes. They're not perfect, but you know what? They're going. And I have visualized most everything that I have in my life right now, and I'm constantly evolving that and constantly adding new things. And my vision boards have 0 rules. I don't care. I have a jet on my vision board, just for the record. That's the kind of shit that I believe in. And most of the time, I may not get 100% there. Might be a toy jet, but it's going to be a jet. We'll see. Tip number 2, you have to embrace change. I'm going to tell you this is the biggest battle I see most of you facing. Anytime there's a little bit of change, freak out. And that may not be a personal freak out, but sometimes it's a business freak out. Especially when we're dealing with things related to money and scarcity lifestyle versus that abundance lifestyle or that abundance mindset, that personal freak out because, oh, I can't deal with this change. You have to embrace change, and that's something that I actively push on every single day. In fact, I am so big about it, I seek out change. I change shit just to change shit. I tell my people, if I ever hear you say, we do it this way because it's always been done that way, just walk around, turn around and leave. Because I never, ever want to hear that. Because that happens a lot. And I totally understand that this whole thing is super uncomfortable. But the bottom line with this is change equals growth. Personally, professionally, all of it's true. Next tip, actively in your business, focus on growth. Focus on sales and abundance mindset. They print more money every day, I promise that. Especially in the United States, they print more money every day. And I'm not gonna say, now, this is gonna trip some triggers on this one, okay? Service delivery matters, but not when I'm waking up every day and thinking about things. It does matter. I'm not gonna say service deliver is 0, but I personally, as I'm focusing on my growth mindsets, as I'm focusing on sales, as I'm focusing on revenue, as I'm focusing on wealth, I don't give a shit what service delivery looks like. I'll worry about that later. Because you know, how good is service delivery if we have no cash? Service delivery is gonna be, I don't care how great you are as a tech, if you have 0 cash flow, service delivery matters 0. I want you to just understand that. And I'm never gonna say, this is the stuff I get the biggest heat for on the internet, because you got all these like keyboard warriors that are out there blasting me. I'm not saying neglect this stuff, but I'm actively saying be very purposeful in your business about sales, about money, about cash flow, and specifically about lead gen. Tip number 4, hire people better than you to run your company. Michelle, Vianney, Lindsay, Cindy, Paige, Ryan. Hire people better than you. Stop obsessing with, I have to be the guy. I have to be the guy that runs everything. I have to be the guy that clients talk to. I have to be the guy that does all the sales calls. I have to be the guy for all this stuff. And that's gal too, okay? Hire people better than you to run your company. And I'm really proud of our staff. And we have an amazing team. And if I had that, I can't find anybody better than me mindset, we would not, any of us, be sitting here today. Because these guys are all better than me. So, and then specifically, put a lot of effort into actually fulfilling your vision. So this is the stuff I spend the most time on in my business, is I actively sit here and I work on my vision. I work on the things that I see. You guys notice some change even in the room we're in now from last quarter to this quarter. We changed up a massive amount of stuff. Maria and Michelle and I, we meet every single week and we review this stuff and we work on these things. And I'm like, hey, I want to do this. Let's try this. Let's try this. And it works because we actively work on our vision and use that to help you hire with purpose. And my final tip coming out of this, go hard every day. Now, I'm not saying don't take breaks, okay? I take went golfing on Monday, had a great time. You could absolutely check out. You can also obviously do stuff. You can obviously go on vacations. But when you're in the zone, work hard. Just because you're working really hard on tickets doesn't mean we're actually getting anything done. So think about your own behaviors, go hard every single day, and do not give a shit at all about what people think. I should have probably put this on my skills, because I don't care what people think about me. I get roasted every single day, and it's a struggle. But I don't care. It is what it is. Okay? And then finally, run the play every day.